A mother speaking on her son's birthday when he is no longer alive makes the world pause. This time, that mother is Pamela Warner. On what should have been a quiet, bittersweet moment of reflection, Pamela shattered the silence. With just one post, one picture, and one message, she cracked open every wound the world thought had begun to heal. August 18, 2025, marked what would have been Malcolm Jamal Warner's 55th year of life, a milestone he never got to celebrate. But the way Pamela chose to honor him didn't just break hearts, it reignited questions, reopened investigations in people's minds, and pulled the entire internet back into the mystery of how one of television's most beloved stars, a man known to be a confident and capable swimmer, ended up drowning on a beach in Costa Rica, under circumstances that still don't add up. The caption she wrote wasn't just a tribute, it was a gut punch. My baby, today is August 18, 2025. Happy 55th birthday. I remember holding you 55 years ago for the first time, feeling your tiny hands, your soft breath, and now I'm holding memories because you're gone and I'm alone. Those words didn't just echo through the hearts of fans. They triggered something deeper, a tidal wave of emotion, of anger, of disbelief. Because in the comments, among the flood of crying emojis and heartbroken prayers, one message stood out. Pamela, you have to speak. We know this wasn't an accident. They planned it. You know they did. What started as a mother's birthday post just became something else entirely. This wasn't closure. This was the reopening of a mystery and maybe the beginning of justice. It's been weeks, yet the world still can't wrap its head around it. Malcolm Jamal Warner dead by drowning. This wasn't a man who avoided the ocean or feared the water. This was a strong swimmer, someone known by friends and family for his calmness in deep water, his athleticism, his control. He wasn't reckless or unprepared. And yet the headlines read the same across every outlet. Malcolm Jamal Warner dead at 54 after drowning off the coast of Costa Rica. The shock was instant, the mourning widespread, but something else crept in too. Confusion and suspicion. That unshakable gut feeling that something just didn't make sense. How does a professional swimmer drown in waste? Deep water with tourists nearby and lifeguards on standby. Why were there conflicting reports on the timing of his death? Why did the eyewitness stories keep changing? And most of all, why hasn't anyone been held accountable? Every photo of Malcolm's smiling face only deepened the ache. The world didn't just lose an actor. It lost a father, a husband, a voice, a man who had finally found peace and purpose in his later years. The pain of that loss never really faded. It just sat there, lingering until today, because Pamela Warner didn't just bring the grief back. She brought the questions back too. August 18th, a date that once symbolized joy for the Warner family, felt different this year. There were no balloons, no candles, no celebration, just silence until Pamela broke it with a single Instagram post that shook her followers to the core. She uploaded an old photo of Malcolm beaming beside her, arm wrapped gently around her shoulder. Taken during her 50th birthday celebration, he looked healthy, radiant, and alive. But it was the caption that truly broke hearts. My baby, today is August 18th, 2025, and now you are 55. I still remember 55 years ago when you were first placed in my hands. And now I sit here with silence, alone, but still so proud. No hashtags, no emojis, just raw emotion. A mother mourning not just a birthday, but a lifetime that ended too soon. And within minutes, the internet responded. Thousands of comments poured in, but the message underneath it all was clear. Nobody has moved on. This wasn't just a birthday tribute. It was a reminder that grief has no expiration date, and that sometimes a mother's heartbreak speaks louder than any official report. Pamela wasn't just remembering her son. She was calling him home, and in doing so, she woke up a storm. It was supposed to be a quiet remembrance, but the moment Pamela Warner hit post, the image she shared didn't just go viral. It cracked open the internet's collective grief all over again. The photo wasn't flashy or posed for headlines. It was real. Malcolm Jamal Warner caught in a candid moment of joy. His smile not for the cameras, but for his mother. The warmth in his eyes, the way he leaned into her, the way she looked up at him with that unmistakable glow. Only a mother could have it, said everything. It was a glimpse into a relationship so deep and pure that seeing it now after his death felt like a punch to the chest. People weren't just crying over what had happened. They were crying because this photo showed what should have still been. A son who should have been celebrating her next birthday. An image that spread like wildfire. But it didn't stop there, because with every share, the whispers started to grow louder. Not just grief, but suspicion. Not just pain, but pressure. Pamela's post was a memory, but for the internet, it was a match, and what it ignited wasn't just mourning. It was momentum. Within minutes, her post transformed into something far bigger than a tribute. It became a rallying cry. Thousands of fans flooded the comments, not just with crying emojis, but with fire, awe, emotion, frustration that had been simmering since the moment Malcolm's death was announced. And suddenly, one message began echoing louder than the rest. This wasn't an accident. Underneath the waves of support were pointed questions, angry declarations, and demands for justice. Followers weren't just grieving, they were connecting the dots, fueled by the feeling that something about Malcolm's passing had always felt off. Pamela, we believe you know the truth. Too many things don't add up. We're with you. You need to speak. Tell the world what really happened. This was a setup. The most viral comment of all read, "Mom Pamela, you have to come forward. This wasn't nature. This was a plan." And it didn't stop there. Fans began tagging news outlets, investigative reporters, and even attorneys. Hashtags started trending again. #Justice for Malcolm. #Pamela Speak Out. What was once quiet grief was now a digital movement, one rooted in love but growing in suspicion. And Pamela, she hasn't replied to a single comment, but she didn't have to, because one post, one picture, and one date were enough to wake up the people. Now they're not just mourning Malcolm's death, they're ready to fight for answers. As the hours passed, the tone online shifted from sadness to suspicion, and from suspicion to certainty. Across forums, fan pages, and group chats, a single theory kept gaining momentum. Malcolm Jamal Warner didn't just drown. He was silenced. The more fans dug, the more questions emerged. Questions no one seemed able or willing to answer. Why were there conflicting eyewitness reports? Why did Malcolm's autopsy take longer than expected to be released? Why did some say the rescue efforts were delayed or confused? Why did the story keep changing in the first 24 hours? And most of all, why was someone with Malcolm's strength and swimming experience found unresponsive in conditions many called safe? Then came the deeper speculation. Some pointed to Malcolm's rumored tell-all project, a documentary insiders say he was quietly working on. Others referenced his recent podcast episodes where he appeared worried or on edge. A few even mentioned high-profile names he had fallen out with in the months leading up to his death. People with power, influence, and something to lose. He was about to expose something. They got to him. This wasn't nature. It was execution disguised as a tragedy. Even those who weren't into conspiracies admitted things felt wrong. It wasn't just one thing, it was everything. The timing, the location, the lack of concrete answers, the hushed response from Hollywood, and now Pamela's haunting message. It all felt like pieces of a puzzle someone didn't want completed. And so what began as whispers is now a wave. Fans aren't just mourning, they're investigating, watching, waiting, and demanding. Because if what they believe is true, then Malcolm's death wasn't just a loss, it was a cover-up. Through it all, through the heartbreak, the media silence, and the swirling storm of online theories, Pamela Warner has remained almost entirely quiet. No interviews, no press conferences, no sit-down exclusives, just one post. In that silence, it's loud, because for many fans, Pamela's grief isn't just heartbreak, it's knowing. There's a heaviness behind her words that feels different, as if she's holding something in, something the world isn't ready for, or worse, something someone doesn't want her to say. People have begun to wonder, Is she protecting Malcolm's legacy, or is she protecting herself? Because, let's be honest, mothers know, they feel things, and no mother wakes up on her son's birthday, posts a tribute that hits the internet like an earthquake without a deeper purpose. Pamela didn't accuse anyone. She didn't name names, but she didn't have to. Her silence has become a mirror, and it's reflecting back every theory, every fear, and every piece of unfinished truth the public has been sitting on since Malcolm's death. Fans are now begging her to break that silence, to go public, to name the forces they believe may have been involved. Pamela, we believe in you. You have to speak. If you talk, we'll listen. If you lead, we'll follow. They think we forgot. We didn't, and we're waiting. But Pamela, she's playing the long game, because sometimes silence isn't fear. Sometimes silence is power, and when she finally does speak, if she ever does, what she says might not just change the narrative, it might change everything. Despite the grief, the silence, and the unanswered questions, one thing is undeniable. Malcolm Jamal Warner's legacy is louder than ever. In the weeks since his death, and especially in the wake of Pamela's heartbreaking post, fans have done more than mourn. They've mobilized, they've lit digital candles, shared old clips, reposted his most powerful interviews, and pushed his work back into the spotlight, because the world isn't ready to let go. Every generation has its icons. But Malcolm wasn't just a symbol. He was a storyteller, an artist, a man who evolved far beyond his early fame. He became a poet, a father, a protector of truth, someone who grew into his voice and used it to speak out even when it wasn't popular. And now that voice is being carried by millions. Fans are organizing tribute screenings of his lesser-known films. Poets are reciting his verses at open mics. Youth programs are naming scholarships in his honor. His podcast is being replayed, dissected, and quoted like gospel. What's happening isn't just remembrance. It's resistance. Because no amount of silence, speculation, or suppression can erase the impact he made. And the more people feel the pain of his loss, the more determined they become to protect what he stood for. Pamela's tribute didn't just open old wounds, it reignited the mission. And now a growing movement is building, not just to uncover the truth about his death, but to honor the purpose behind his life. What started as a mother's birthday message has become something much, much bigger. Pamela Warner didn't give a press statement. She didn't go on live TV. She didn't even use hashtags. She simply remembered her son in the most human, heartbreaking way. But that quiet act set off a thunderstorm, because now the world isn't just grieving Malcolm Jamal Warner's death all over again. It's questioning it louder, sharper, and more united than ever before. What was once a tragic story filed under accident is now being pulled back into the spotlight, and this time fans aren't letting it fade. They want answers, they want justice, and most of all, they want to know what Pamela hasn't said yet. The whispers are growing into roars, from public forums to private circles, from Instagram comment sections to podcast deep dives. The truth is being hunted. And every time someone shares that photo, every time someone reposts her caption, it sends a message. We're not done, and we're not going away. Malcolm's story isn't over. And if Pamela Warner is still holding something in, if she's protecting a secret, a detail, a name, a truth, the world is ready to hear it. Because silence may be power, but truth is a storm, and it's coming. August 18th, 2025, was supposed to be a day of remembrance, a private moment between a mother and her memories, but it became a global event.